Something was hiding behind the sweetness, and tonight it finally screamed. Welcome to Royal Beat Tales. If you are just seeing us for the first time, please subscribe, like, and comment for more unique stories. A busy Suya stand at night powered by a single bulb, similar to Mama Adaora's spot. Mama Adaora's Suya stand glowed in the Lagos night, a tiny stall on a busy street in Ajegunle. The smell of roasting meat mixed with spicy pepper and peanuts filled the warm air. A long line of people stretched in front of her, everyone eager for a taste of the famous Suya. They chattered excitedly, their mouths watering as they watched Mama Adaora flip the skewers over hot coals. It was said to be the sweetest, most delicious Suya anyone had ever tasted. It was a strange sight because women rarely sold Suya, yet there she was, an older woman with a bright wrapper around her waist, tending the grill with a smile. People whispered, wondering how she made it so tasty. Some joked that she must have a secret spice or magic touch, but no one questioned it too much. The flavor was too good. Even late into the night, customers kept coming. Taxi drivers, traders, students, and even wealthy men in fancy cars stopped by, all craving that mouth-watering snack. In the crowd, two men began arguing about who was first in line. "I came here before you, please," one shouted, clutching his naira notes tightly. The other man frowned, refusing to give up his spot. Mama Adaora laughed softly and intervened, handing each a freshly wrapped piece of suya. "No need to fight, my sons. There is enough for everyone," she said sweetly. The men smiled sheepishly, the argument forgotten as soon as they bit into the tasty, smoky meat. Children danced on tiptoes to see the grill, and adults closed their eyes in delight as they chewed their suya. Every bite seemed to melt on the tongue, leaving them wanting more. Mama Adora watched them eat with a twinkle in her eye. She was polite and generous, sometimes giving an extra piece for free. Everyone loved her and her suya. But as the happy customers enjoyed their treat, none of them noticed the odd gleam in Mama Adaora's eyes when the firelight flared. If only they knew the secret behind that sweetness. If only they knew what kind of meat they were truly eating. Banana Island was a world away from the crowded streets of Ajegunle. In this wealthy Lagos neighborhood, gates guarded mansion after mansion. At the heart of one luxurious clinic, Mama Adora, known here by her formal name, Dr. Okafor, strolled through pristine white corridors. Nurses greeted her respectfully as she passed. None of them could have guessed that the kind, elegant clinic owner would spend her night tending a smoky street grill in old clothes. Mama Adaora lived a double life, and she guarded her secret fiercely. That afternoon, a healthy baby girl had been born in the clinic, many others in labor waiting to deliver. The new mother slept while a nurse cleaned up. In the delivery room, Mama Adora's own daughter, Adaora, gently took the newborn's placenta and placed it into a sterile container. Here, people cared less about their placenta after delivery. The placenta was supposed to be burnt, buried, or given to the family by tradition. Instead, it would become the meat for tonight's suya. Adaora sneaked the container to her mother's private office. Mama Adaora stood waiting, already dressed in a simple blouse and wrapper skirt instead of her usual expensive clothes. She looked nothing like the rich doctor she truly was. Adaora whispered, "Mama, here it is," and handed over the container. Inside it was the fresh human placenta, still warm from birth. Mama Adaora's eyes gleamed as she carefully transferred the precious package into a cheap cooler box, packing it as if it were normal beef. As dusk fell, Mama Adaora left the clinic by a back door, carrying the cooler. Outside, her driver waited with an old rusty van, a stark contrast to the luxury around them. She climbed in, and the van rumbled out of Banana Island toward the mainland. With each mile, the streets grew busier and poorer. By the time they reached Ajegunle, night had fallen. Mama Adaora hopped out, thanked the driver, and headed to her usual spot with the cooler in hand. Under the dim street lights, she transformed into the familiar Suya seller once more. No one could imagine that the meat she carried came not from any animal, but from a hospital maternity ward. The secret ingredient was ready, and Mama Adaora's dark business was about to resume for the night. Back at the Ajegunle Suya spot, Mama Adaora lit her charcoal fire and prepared for another busy night. She sliced the placenta into thin strips and rubbed them with her special blend of spices, ground peanuts, fiery pepper, and a secret ingredient from her dark rituals. As the first pieces of placenta sizzled on the grill, she quietly hummed an old lullaby. But this was no innocent song. It was a charm whispered under her breath. The flames danced high, casting unnatural shadows. If one looked closely, they might imagine faint shapes in the smoke, like tiny faces or wisps of crying babies. Mama Adaora smiled to herself. Her night's work was beginning. She had 3 sinister motives for this gruesome business. First, each time someone ate her special suya, she drained away a bit of that person's good fortune, quietly adding their luck to her own. Second, each time a placenta roasted over her fire, the spirit of the newborn it came from became bound to Mama Adaora, an innocent soul trapped by her dark magic for future use. And third, she sold enchanted placenta suya to wealthy men who believed it gave them supernatural power and protection. They paid her huge sums, not knowing they fell into a spiritual debt that let Mama Adaora control them to her advantage. While ordinary customers munched happily on their snack, the first part of Mama Adaora's plan was in motion. A young man in a football jersey devoured a skewer and waved in thanks. He didn't notice anything strange, but a faint glowing mist drifted from his body toward Mama Adora. It was a slice of his life's good luck leaving him. Mama Adora sniffed the air with delight as the glow sank into her. She shivered in satisfaction as a new surge of strength and fortune coursed through her veins. One more destiny stolen. Nearby, another skewer crackled on the grill, and Mama Adaora sensed the spirit of the baby it came from rising with the smoke. She closed her eyes and muttered a quick spell under her breath. No one around saw it, but a tiny ghostly infant momentarily appeared above the flames and vanished. Mama Adara had captured that newborn soul and added it to her hidden collection of baby spirits. By late night, she had drained many customers of small bits of their destiny and bound yet another newborn spirit to herself. Every sale made her richer in ways her buyers could never imagine. As midnight approached, Mama Adora wiped her hands and glanced down the road. A pair of headlights flashed in the distance. The truly special customers were arriving under the cloak of darkness, seeking the forbidden suya only she could provide. At midnight, 2 luxury cars rolled up quietly to Mama Adaora's stand. Out stepped 2 of the city's most powerful men, arriving under the cloak of darkness. One was a prominent politician, the other a famous businessman, both usually seen on TV and in newspapers. Tonight they hid their faces under caps and scarves, glancing around nervously to be sure no one recognized them. These men were Mama Adaora's secret patrons, willing to do anything for her special suya. Mama Adaora greeted them calmly. "You have what I requested?" she asked. The politician, voice shaking, thrust forward a bulging envelope of cash. The businessman held out a small bag of sparkling gems. They had brought her payment worth millions without a word of bargaining. "Please," the politician whispered, "I must be protected. My enemies, they're everywhere." The businessman nodded hastily, adding, "I can't fail in my next deal. I need more of your help." Their tough public faces had melted into desperate pleas. With a satisfied grin, Mama Adaora took out a fresh chunk of placenta reserved just for them. She placed it on the grill and sprinkled it with rare herbs and powders. As the meat sizzled, she chanted quietly, moving her hands through the rising smoke. The powerful men watched in timid silence, sweat on their brows. A heavy, otherworldly aura settled around the stall. They could feel the energy, and it made their hearts race. Soon the placenta suya was ready, charred, spiced, and enchanted. Mama Adaora divided it into 2 portions wrapped in leaves. "Eat it here," she instructed. Though their hands trembled, the men obeyed immediately. They chewed and swallowed the rich, smoky pieces, determined to consume every bite of the promised power. Mama Adaora whispered a final incantation as they finished, sealing the dark pact. Invisible chains tightened around the men's souls, binding them to her. Neither noticed anything strange. They only felt a surge of confidence and relief wash over them. "It is done," Mama Adaora said, wiping her hands. The politician stood taller, a sly smile on his face, as if he already felt invincible. The businessman let out a breath and nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Mama," he said in a low voice. She gave them a gentle warning smile. "You will succeed and stay protected as long as you remain loyal to me. Remember that." They both agreed at once, bowing their heads. In that moment, these mighty men were like schoolboys obeying their teacher. They departed as quietly as they had come, slipping back into their cars and vanishing into the night. Mama Adaora watched them go, then tucked away the fortune they paid her. Her scheme had made her rich and powerful beyond ordinary imagination. She felt untouchable, with influential men under her thumb and ordinary people's fortunes feeding her strength. Little did Mama Adaora know, a tiny mistake was about to unravel all her wicked plans. Not far from Mama Adaora's stall, another suya seller named Malam Musa had watched the night's strange events with growing suspicion. He had lost most of his customers to Mama Adaora's irresistibly sweet suya, and it bothered him deeply. That night, after Mama Adaora packed up and left, Musa crept over to her empty spot. The glowing charcoal had been doused, and the street was quiet. He searched around her stall area with a flashlight, determined to find out what made her suya so special. Behind the stand, Musa's foot bumped into a small plastic container half buried in ash. He picked it up and glanced at it. The container was stained with blood and oily spices. It had a hospital's logo and some printed words on the side. In the dim light, he managed to read, "Banana Island Clinic. Placenta. Discard." His heart nearly stopped. Placenta. Musa recoiled in horror, dropping the container. His mind raced as he recalled the rumors and oddities. A woman selling suya, very rare. The never-before-tasted flavor of her meat. The way wealthy strangers visited her at midnight. A cold realization washed over him. Mama Adaora's meat was human. Musa felt sick at the thought that he and everyone else had unknowingly eaten human placenta. He gagged and stepped back, but he knew he couldn't stay silent. Hands trembling, he wrapped the container in an old newspaper. This evidence was small, but it was enough to expose her. He hurried down the street to the local police post, nearly tripping in his haste. At first, the sleepy officers on duty frowned at Musa's wild story. A woman selling human flesh as suya? It sounded like a crazy folk tale. But when Musa unwrapped the blood-stained container with the hospital label, their eyes widened. The evidence was real and chilling. The senior officer immediately called for backup and an investigation. By morning, news of the discovery had quietly reached a few important ears. The police decided to catch Mama Adaora in the act that very night to make sure no mistake was made. They kept Musa's discovery secret, not wanting to alert the suspect. Musa left the station as dawn broke, his heart pounding. He felt a mix of fear and triumph. He had uncovered the awful truth. No wonder her suya was too sweet to be normal, he muttered to himself, shuddering. He spent the day nervously waiting and spreading word to a few trusted neighbors to avoid Mama Adaora's stand. Anger was growing in his chest. By sundown, a plan was set. The stage was ready for Mama Adaora to face the consequences of her evil deeds, and Musa was determined to see it through. That night, Mama Adaora returned to her usual spot in Ajegunle, unaware of the trap around her. She had just stoked her fire when sudden torchlights blazed. "Freeze! Don't move!" shouted a stern voice. Police officers sprang forward from the shadows. Malam Musa was with them, pointing straight at her. "We know what you've been doing," he cried out. Mama Adaora's smile dropped. She took a step back, heart pounding. What is this?" she protested weakly. The officers closed in, surrounding her. One yanked away the cooler box by her grill and threw it open. Inside lay a bloody chunk of flesh, not beef, not goat, but human placenta. A collective gasp erupted. People in the small crowd screamed and stumbled back in horror. One woman fainted, and a man doubled over, retching violently. "She's been feeding us human meat," an elderly neighbor wailed, eyes wide with shock. Fear and fury rippled through the crowd. Seeing her secret literally uncovered, Mama Adaora panicked. In a last desperate act, she snatched a hidden pouch of black powder from her apron. With a furious snarl, she hurled the powder into the fire. Whoosh! The flames exploded upward. "Stay back!" she shrieked, as a wall of heat and sparks rose between her and the officers. For an instant, the police shielded their faces, startled by the sudden blaze. But then a strange sound drifted out of the fire, the thin, sorrowful cry of a baby. Mama Adaora's triumph turned to dread. Wisps of smoke above the fire twisted into tiny, glowing figures of infants. The spirits of the newborns she had enslaved were materializing, freed by her own dark spell. They circled her head, their faint cries growing louder. "No, no!" Mama Adaora screamed, swiping at the empty air as those ghostly figures closed in on her. To everyone else, it looked like she was clawing madly at nothing. The police seized the moment. Two officers lunged through the dying flames and tackled her to the ground. Mama Adaora thrashed and howled, but she couldn't escape. The vengeful baby spirits swarmed once around her and then vanished into the night, their departing wails echoing in the darkness. Within seconds, the officers snapped handcuffs onto Mama Adaora's wrists. She was dragged up from the ground, dirty and defeated. An officer held the blood-stained container high for all to see. "This is what she's been selling," he announced. The crowd that remained shouted in outrage, some hurling curses, others sobbing in disgust. Mama Adaora hung her head in shame. Under the vibrant streetlight, the once beloved Suya seller now stood exposed as a monster. Her dark powers had failed her, and her evil deeds were laid bare. As the police led a weeping Mama Adaora to their van, she could still hear the furious cries of her neighbors, and perhaps just for a moment, the distant wail of a baby fading into silence. In the days that followed, the tale of Mama Adaora's dark enterprise spread through Lagos like wildfire. People were horrified and fascinated that a wealthy hospital owner had disguised herself as a poor Suya seller to carry out such evil. The Banana Island clinic was raided by authorities, and it became clear that placentas from newborns had been mysteriously vanishing under Mama Adaora's watch. Her daughter Adaora, who had helped supply the gruesome ingredient, was also arrested. Parents held their babies a little tighter, and former customers of the Suya shack shivered with disgust, realizing what they had consumed. For all her supernatural tricks and stolen riches, one small mistake sealed Mama Adaora's fate. A discarded plastic container with a hospital label had been the tiny clue that brought her down. In court, the evidence spoke for itself. Mama Adaora was found guilty of her horrific deeds. The judge showed no mercy. She lost everything and would spend the rest of her days behind bars. She went from a secret dark queen to a disgraced criminal in a jumpsuit. Behind bars, Mama Adaora became a shadow of her former self. No more fine clothes, no more midnight riches, and no more dark powers. Night after night, other inmates woke to her screams echoing down the corridor. She claimed to hear babies crying, tiny voices that would not let her sleep. No one else heard these phantom cries, only her. Perhaps it was just guilt and nightmares, or perhaps the spirits of those innocents truly haunted her, ensuring she never forgot her sins. Either way, Mama Adaora would never know peace again. Word of her downfall traveled far, turning into a modern folktale across the city. The people of Ajegunle and beyond learned a bitter lesson about greed and blind trust. Many swore to be more careful about where their food came from, even joking nervously that they would check twice if something ever tasted too good to be true. Her reign of terror was over, and justice had been served at last. The spot where her Suya once stood remains empty and silent. Yet on certain misty nights, some say the air still carries a whiff of spiced meat and a faint echo of a baby's wail, a reminder of the horror that happened there. If only they knew from the start the truth behind Mama Adora's sweet Suya, so much pain could have been avoided. But ultimately, the tiniest clue was enough to unravel her wicked scheme, proving that no evil deed, no matter how cleverly hidden, can stay secret forever. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and comment for more unique stories.